Power station. We also have a direct link to the National Weather Service for watches or warnings to air immediately when they're issued. Keep yourself and your family safe by tuning into the WHOW platforms on AM, FM, or streamed online, as well as on WEZC 95.9 FM.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Netflix buffering, YouTube spinning, devices not connecting, Zoom calls dropping. It's frustrating. Let's end your frustration by signing up for fiber internet in Clinton. Click the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
From the Heart Media Group newsroom and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning, and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The news is brought to you by Baum Chevy Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, as well as Connexus, offering fiber internet in Clinton. Click their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com to find out more. Late last month, the annual school report card data was released for Clinton schools, and the district recognizes that improvement is going to be necessary after less than ideal scores. School Superintendent Drew Goebel indicates Lincoln and Douglas elementary schools are facing improvements after test scores were not in the commendable range of the report card. A rating of exemplary is the highest a district can achieve at a building, and then followed by commendable. The two buildings were below that commendable rating.
We do have some work to do. And when and I've heard different superintendents on the radio talking about their designation and, exemplary being at the very top and commendables that, not at the top, but you're still doing just great. And then you have the targeted and comprehensive. And in the state, if you fall below the commendable, that there is funding that comes along with that. And a couple of years ago, that I'm going to highlight some things. Junior high fell below the commendable where you want to be. And through the work of the junior high teachers, Mr. Peck, Mrs. Witz, Mrs. Jensen, and everybody working as a team, plans put in place, and the junior high had very good improvement. And Mr. Peck even talked about that last night in his presentation. So when the work, you can't deny facts. You can't just bury your head in the sand and just pretend everything's great and just think things are going to miraculously somehow get better. That is not effective. Ignoring a problem, that's not going to work. To highlight the junior high, they made changes and the results, the test results improved. And right now, CES, they are in the process of doing a ton of changes. And I fully believe that the changes and the school improvement and the curriculum adjustments that are happening at CES will improve test scores. Lincoln and Douglas, the most recent scores, they're below the commendable rating. And as a result, there is going to have to be some work that's going to be done.
According to Assistant Superintendent Kara Jensen, as soon as the data came out, communication and planning began on how they were going to improve the results at Lincoln and Douglas schools.
Looking at our recent designations and analyzing the data, we did take several steps to ensure that everyone is well aware of where we are at to begin with. So we met with all building administrators, we met with the board, we had a meeting with all K-5 teachers together talking about our designations. As mentioned, Lincoln and Douglas are in that comprehensive designation at this point, which puts us into a different type of school improvement planning. We'll work with the state. CES was in that as well last year. And so we really get the benefit of bringing in the state to partner with us and be able to look at how we write school improvement plans, what are the type of goals that we're writing, and what groups of students are we really focusing on. When we met with our educators and we wanted to really kind of really put out there a sense of collective efficacy, right?
Mhm,
That it's not just isolated to one classroom. It's not just isolated to one building. We're all working towards the same goal in a unified district. And so that messaging is really important as well. And especially into our community, it is going to take all of us. We have to target attendance and chronic absenteeism. And that's a part of our school report card that's underperforming right now as well. So we are working on that academic side, analyzing more math data than we have previously, but then really asking the community to partner with us. That chronic absentee rate is rather high for our district and a district of our size in comparative to our surrounding districts. So all of that is going to be work to be done. I do think getting the feedback from the teachers of what do they see as areas of improvement is an important part of the process. We don't sit in an ivory tower making decisions that are unilateral. We need to make sure that we're bringing in those groups to have that conversation and see what they see within their own space.
Many districts are struggling with chronic absenteeism, and Jensen hopes to the message to parents of the importance of students' attendance in schools, and feels that students being in class will help improve test scores. However, that won't be the only thing they focus on.
You're there to be educated. And naturally that we would hope would improve those test scores.
Sure.
Chronic absenteeism is you're missing 10% of the school year, whether that's excused or unexcused. So it even goes back to looking at some of our attendance policies and what we consider to be excused. And so really it's multifaceted. It's not just getting the student there. It's also really analyzing our practices as well. We're also coming off of a time of COVID. While it was 5 years ago, I certainly recognize that it really changed some of our I guess, philosophy on education. We came during that time. There was a lot of fear of sending children to school and how to keep everyone safe. And I think just over time, those practices in some of our families remained. And so we want to ensure that school is a safe place. We are engaging. We want to ensure that parents feel comfortable to have conversations and build relationships. I don't think it's targeted to just one thing within our families. I think, again, there's many things that we have to recognize and build those relationships with our families. Are we willing to call and have a conversation of why a student's been gone for a couple days? And then do we need support in the home? Are there things that we can then bridge that? So I don't think it's attributed to one thing or one chain. I think it's been a small roll over time, and we certainly are wanting to partner with our community to build that back up.
GBBall commends his staff in the buildings and believes in the teachers of the district to improve students' test scores. Coming up shortly on this expanded newscast, U of I Extension Nutrition Educator offers annual Thanksgiving food safety reminders. The National Weather Service in Lincoln is watching a storm system developing out west that could impact travel this holiday weekend. Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln earlier this week told the Hart Media Group it was difficult to predict what exactly was coming our way because the models were showing different outcomes.
Yeah, this storm system has got us kind of spidey senses up a little bit. We've got scenarios where it's mainly rain for the DeWitt County area, and then there's a scenario as well with several inches of snow, 2 to 4. We don't put numbers on it usually this early because that really is kind of giving a disservice to the scope of possibilities. But there could be some measurable snow as we head into early next week. The weekend might have a little bit of rain. Let me bring up the latest one here out of the European. The European model was the one that was bringing in some snow. Yeah, Saturday the 29th, snow coming in, but not as heavy. The American GFS was a little bit more robust with snowfall on that Sunday, Monday, I think here. Yeah, so it's coming in with very light snow Saturday. The real big storm for the GFS is coming in Monday morning with a lot of rain and not nearly as much snow. So you're trying to feel out, is it going to be warm like the American GFS? Is it going to be a little colder like the European, where you're going to have maybe snow on Saturday and not as much impact on Monday? So this one it's got a kind of a two-headed monster. There's some snow on Saturday and then a really big low coming maybe Monday, and we're trying to figure out which one's going to have more impact. Right now, the European thinks Saturday is going to have a little bit more snow with not as much impact on Monday. So it's a strong low, though, so there's going to be some impacts coming early next week. So just be ready for that as we close out the Thanksgiving weekend.
We're getting closer to knowing more about this storm as the system makes landfall. Shimon anticipates either snow or rain to impact central Illinois and a lot of wind to come with it.
Definitely a lot of wind coming in. Freezing rain corridor on these right now. It doesn't look like it's going to impact Illinois at this point. And it looks really narrow and not an ice storm type of a situation. If there is any light icing, it'd be far northern Illinois, and it would probably be fleeting. Right now, most of the freezing rain signals are showing up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, kind of areas. So we don't expect that this time for us, at least on that Sunday night, Monday time frame there. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. I mean, that far out, the track can shift 100, 200 miles, even maybe more. Right now, this system isn't being sampled by our balloon network. It's only satellite kind of seeing energy over in the Pacific and well out into the Pacific. And it's trying to figure out, okay, where is that going to evolve? And that's not being sampled by balloon network either. It's out over the ocean at this point. So once it hits land, that's about 3 days ahead of it, usually. So then we really start sampling, where's the energy, where's the moisture, where's this thing, what is this thing all about? Satellites can only show so much. So once we start sampling it with our balloon network, then we go, then the models are like, wait a minute, this is where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And that's why we try to stay away from saying you're going to get 2 to 4 inches of snow when it's 7 days out. It doesn't do anybody any good. Probabilities of impactful rain or snow possible, and just start planning for it. Don't worry about the amounts. Just say, okay, if I've got travel, how am I going to alter plans if things start looking more slippery, or heavy rain isn't really probably going to cause a lot of problems because we're so dry. If we get a lot of rain, it'll be like soaked right into the ground for the most part. But just have your plans, eyes on the future, and be weather aware, and that's all we ask for.
November was below average for precipitation again. Shimon indicates if it is rain that is to come this system, parts of the east central Illinois could really use it. We'll have more with Shimon on the drought conditions next week. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors.
Closeout time is here for a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Yes, we have a good selection of 25 Silverados remaining in regular and crew cab models with gas or diesel engines. Some with utility beds and dual roof wheels. Also see our remaining Colorados, Trailblazers, even our full-size Suburban and Tahoes, all priced to move out. See our 25 inventory today at BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
News time is 22 minutes after the top of the hour. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. The Thanksgiving holiday weekend can quickly go south if proper food safety guidelines are not followed, both in the preparation process and the storage process. Caitlin Mellendorf is a nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, and indicates it starts with making sure that turkey is cooked to the USDA recommended temperatures. And to make sure that happens, have those food thermometers ready.
Thermometers, pull that out. We're going to test that. So you're looking for 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And then depending on if you're doing a pretty large bird, like a turkey, a lot of people will do, the whole bird. Insert that thermometer into a couple different spots just to double check. So certainly dark meat tends to actually be a little bit more tender if you cook it to just a slightly higher temperature. So in that 170, 180, even 190, you can still have really tender meat. But that's also to destroy the salmonella bacteria that is common in a lot of poultry, including turkey. So let's start there with thermometers, but also with all of your surfaces. So we come back to this. I know we've talked about this on air about clean, separate, cook, and chill. So cleaning is just making sure that your surfaces are clean to start. You're washing hands on a regular basis. separation is about keeping your cooked and your cooked and ready to eat foods separated from your raw and uncooked foods. So we're not cutting up the raw turkey or stuffing it or putting seasoning on that raw turkey and then using that same cutting board and knife to cut up the salad greens that you're going to serve. So we're going to separate those. Cooking is all about that final cooking temperature of all those foods. So 165 for that turkey. And then chill is about those leftovers. Like that's the big thing with Thanksgiving is you're probably going to come home or have someone leave your house with just a ton of leftovers. So making sure that those go into your refrigerator within 2 hours after they come out of either the oven, or if they're maybe a pre-made, like a salad that's going to come out of the refrigerator and sit on the table for that time. At that 2 hour point, if you want to save those leftovers, pop them back in the fridge.
A practice that many may still use but is now considered unsafe is thawing meat at room temperature. Mellendorf explains this has been a practice not recommended for some time now, simply because bacteria in the meat can still thrive when thawed at that room temperature pace. It is recommended to let your meat thaw in the refrigerator.
So, I mean, this is what a lot of people do is they will say, oh, I had this frozen meat. I forgot to take it out to thaw. And so they'll leave it on their counter at room temperature. It's no longer a recommended thawing process just because we're bringing that food into a really, really warm temperature. A lot of houses and homes, your ambient air temperature is usually in like the upper 60s, the low 70s. And that is a temperature where bacteria will be very happy to grow even as that meat thaws. And depending on how many bacteria that food just naturally started with, might have been contaminated with, even with proper cooking, some of our bacteria we know produce toxins or other compounds that heat does not destroy and can cause food poisoning. And so even if you've cooked that food to its proper temperature, sometimes those compounds can stick around. So the 4 safe thawing methods are in your refrigerator. Generally, the recommendation is about 24 hours per pound of meat. I find that my refrigerator tends to sit a little colder, and especially if your fridge is already pretty full, it takes a little bit longer than a day per pound. So be mindful of that. So for those of you thinking about, cooking Thanksgiving turkey here on Thursday, today's Monday. So this is like a great time, like pull that turkey out now if you haven't already. So thawing in your refrigerator. Another option would be to use cool running water. So the goal is that you've got, essentially, if you're doing a turkey, something large enough to a basin to hold your meat, and then you're going to turn on your faucet at just a nice pace to let that water cycle around. We don't want to sit that meat in just standing water. It's not going to evenly thaw. It's going to thaw from the outside to the inside. So that running water helps to kind of speed up the process a little bit. It is kind of a waste of water. So you're kind of balancing it's faster, but it uses a little bit more water. So we have thawing at refrigerator in the refrigerator under cool running water. We can thaw directly from cooking, which I would not recommend for a turkey, right? The outside is going to be completely burnt by the time the inside even thaws. But it works really well for smaller cuts of fish, for example, like a small fillet of fish. You could cook directly from frozen or in a microwave, which again, for a turkey, this season's, you're not going to be able to fit your turkey in a microwave. But be aware that when you are thawing that meat in a microwave, the edges are typically going to start to cook. You probably noticed that if you ever thawed chicken or steak or something in the microwave. And so that process needs to go directly from the microwave to whatever your final cooking method is in the oven, in a skillet, so that you can finish that.
When that Thanksgiving dinner has been successfully and safely served, Mellendorf says you do not want the food sitting out more than 2 hours before you get it into the refrigerator to chill. Additionally, those Thanksgiving leftovers are going to be good for roughly 4 days in the refrigerator.
Thinking about, when you have, especially like traveling, right? If you're traveling with food and you're bringing those to your aunt's house or your other, family member's house, all of those leftovers that you've cooked, you brought those in, they've been, heated through, they've been sitting on maybe the table, or if you're like my extended family, it's a lot of buffet style. So the food sit out and you can just grab what you want rather than at a table presentation. And yeah, it is something where those foods are going to be sitting at room temperature. Any bacteria that are present on those foods are going to be just happy to be nice and warm, and they're going to start to munch on those foods and start to either multiply and divide, or they're going to produce some of those toxins that we talked about. So getting any foods that you want to save for leftovers, into cold storage within that 2-hour period. So for that turkey, that means carving it up. We don't want to stick a whole carcass in the refrigerator. It's going to be just too much mass to cool down safely. So go ahead and pre-carve that one up. If you've got leftovers, put them into small containers about 2 to 3 inches high. So we're not taking the whole crock pot and putting that into the refrigerator. We're going to move it into something that will dissipate a lot of heat so foods can cool very quickly, getting those into the refrigerator. So I'll add for those leftovers 4 days on leftovers.
You can visit extension.illinois.edu/turkey for more helpful food preparation tips. Additionally, the USDA's Meat and Poultry Hotline is available to answer food safety questions via phone at 1-888-MP-HOTLINE or email mphotline@usda.gov. Get news anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. While most Americans are heading to their holiday destinations by car, the airports are plenty busy. The FAA expects the busiest Thanksgiving in 15 years. More than 360,000 flights are scheduled through next Tuesday. If you're among those hitting the road, snow could slow you down in some parts of the country, including the northern plains, the upper Midwest, of the Ohio Valley, and western New York State. President Trump says substantial progress has been made in negotiations over a peace agreement for Ukraine. Meanwhile, a senior Kremlin official says that U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff will be heading to Moscow next week. Jesse Jackson's family says the 84-year-old is now out of a hospital where he was treated for a rare neurological disorder. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures up 64 points. More details at srnnews.com.
From the Hart Media Group Sports Desk, IL Sports Wire, and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this local sports report. The Clinton Lady Maroons built up a lead in the second quarter and held on through the second half to beat the Athens Lady Warriors by a final score of 49-41 on Tuesday night in Clinton in non-conference high school girls basketball action. Clinton led by 35-18 at halftime after outscoring their opponents 18-6 in the second quarter. Athens rallied back, coming out of the half to cut their deficit to 42-34 heading into the final 8 minutes. The two teams fell to a stalemate in the fourth quarter, both scoring 7. The Lady Maroons were led by Carly Anderson, who scored 14 points. Lila Kluver added 12 points, while Clara Dempsey contributed 10. Avery Fothery made 2 buckets from beyond the arc. Lydia Hart led the Lady Warriors with 13 points and made three pointers. Ava B added 9 points. With the win, Clinton improves to 2-2, while Athens falls to 1-3. Clinton will resume after the holiday break to take on Tolono Unity on the road on Monday. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. Matthias Rudolph had a double-double, and Monticello downed Pleasant Plains 64-58 in season-opening high school boys basketball non-conference action Tuesday night at Pleasant Plains High School. Rudolph scored 28 points and grabbed 11 rebounds, helping Monticello start fast in its season opener. Aiden McCool added 21 points and grabbed 7 boards for the Sages. Rudolph's driving layup with under a minute left in the first quarter stretched the Monticello early lead to 14-8. The Sages opened a 41-25 lead halfway through the third quarter, its biggest of the night. The Monticello defense held the Cardinals to 40% shooting and 35% from 3. The Sages held the rebounding advantage 32-26, and Monticello shot 55% from the floor. Plainswood trimmed the deficit to 56-50 with just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds to play. But after a Rudolph 3 was off the mark, Jake Mostgood grabbed back-to-back offensive rebounds and found McCool for an open 3 at the top of the key to put the Sages up 59-50, effectively sealing the win. The Cardinals were led by Owen Johnson's 21 points and 9 rebounds. Grady Grisham scored 20 points, and Wolfgang Cooper-Ryder added 12 points. Pleasant Plains starts the year at 0-1. Monticello is 1-0. They will continue their early tour of the Sangamo Conference next Tuesday when they visit Riverton. Game time is 7 p.m. Hear the action on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. Be sure to follow IL Sports Wire on your preferred social media platforms for highlights of tonight's action. The Argenta-Oreana Bombers bounced back from their season-opening loss in the Cerro Gordo tournament and beat the Heritage Hawks by a final score of 60-55 on Tuesday night in non-conference high school boys basketball action. Heritage put up 20 points in the fourth quarter to AO's 13, but it wasn't enough to overcome the 47-36 lead that the Bombers had built up in the previous three quarters. Argenta-Oreana was led by Jackson Finch, who scored 21 points and made 2 from beyond the arc. Carter Logue had 14 points and also made 2 threes. Isaiah Park added 10. Heritage was led by Braden Jones, who put up 18 points. James Dillon had 16 points. With the win, AO improves to 1-1, while Heritage falls to 0-1. The Bombers will host Leroy on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. The Bradley Braves will square off against the Liberty Flames in Orlando, Florida on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. The Braves are 3-4 in non-conference play. Bradley scores 75.9 points and has outscored opponents by 3.9 points per game. The Flames are 5-1 in non-conference play. Liberty is third in the CUSA, scoring 87 points per game and is shooting 55.3%. Bradley is shooting 43.9% from the field this season, 1 percentage point higher than the 42.9% Liberty allows to opponents. Liberty averages 12.5 made three-pointers per game this season, 4.8 more made shots on average than the 7.7 per game Bradley allows. Cameron Hunter's 19 points helped Central Arkansas defeat Eastern Illinois 81-60 on Tuesday. Hunter went 7 for 10 from the field, 4 for 6 from three-point range. For the Bears, Ty Robinson scored 18 points and added 7 rebounds. Javion Guy King added 10 points and finished 4 of 4 from the field. Zion Fruster finished with 21 points for the Panthers. Eastern Illinois also got 11 points and 2 steals from Terry McMorris. Cooper Jacoby finished with 10 points. The Bears move to 3-4, while the Panthers fall to 2-4. Rice takes on Illinois State at Coliseo Guillermo Angulo in Carolina, Puerto Rico on Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. The Owls have a 3-2 record in non-conference play. Rice ranks 7th in the AAC with 22.8 defensive rebounds per game, led by Haley Adams, averaging 8.2. The Redbirds are 4-1 in non-conference play. Illinois State ranks 4th in the MVC with 36.4 rebounds per game, led by Donlia Washington, averaging 10.2. Rice averages 65.4 points per game, one more point than the 64.4 Illinois State gives up. Illinois State scores 13.6 more points per game than Rice allows to opponents, with 78.6 to 65. Minnesota will go for its 6th consecutive victory when it faces off against the host Chicago Blackhawks. The Wild are 9-1-1 in November and are coming off back-to-back shutout wins in which they outscored their opponents 8-0. The Wild's latest win in a 3-0 victory over the Winnipeg Jets marked their league-leading 5th shutout of the season. Wallstedt has posted 3 shutouts, and fellow goaltender Philip Gustafsson has recorded 2. Wild coach John Haynes says both netminders have shined this season. The Wild will take on the Blackhawks, who are on a 3-game losing streak. They have been outscored 13-5 during that span. Blackhawks coach Jeff Blashill said he felt encouraged by his players' latest effort. Chicago fell short 1-0 at home against the NHL best Colorado Avalanche, but controlled the puck for much of the game. Connor Bedard leads the Blackhawks with 31 points in 22 games. Tyler Bertuzzi ranks 2nd with 19 points, and 3 players are tied for 3rd in scoring with 15 points apiece. The Blackhawks could turn to Spencer Knight or Arvid Soderblom in net. Knight is 7-5-3 with a 2.38 goals against average in 15 starts, and Soderblom is 3-3-1 with a 3.46 goals against average and a .881 save percentage in 7 starts. Both netminders have brief experience against the Wild in their careers. Knight has made 1 appearance, stopping all 6 shots he faced in 1 period. Soderblom has faced the Wild in 2 games, and he is 0-2 with 3.55 goals against average and a .889 save percentage. Blackhawks forward Jackson Dickinson agreed with his coach that the player should remain confident despite coming off a 1-0 loss to one of the best teams in the league. Minnesota's top scorer is Kirill Kaprizov, who has 27 points in 23 games. Matt Boldy is next with 25 points, and Marcus Johansson rounds out the top 3 scorers with 19 points. In net, Gustafsson is 6-7-2 with a 2.79 goals against average and a .902 save percentage in 15 starts. Wallstead is 6-0-2 with a 1.94 goals against average and a .935 save percentage in 8 starts. Gustafsson has faced the Blackhawks 6 times in his career, and he is 5-0-1 with a 1.83 goals against average and a .931 save percentage. Wallstead posted a shutout win and stopped all 24 shots he faced in his only career appearance against Chicago. See highlights of your local sports program by finding IL Sports Wire on your preferred social media platform, and get local sports anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki.